Hello there, and welcome to our video discussion of Twin Peaks: The Return, episode 15. There's Some Fear in Letting Go. I'm William, and with me is
Sean.
And we'll be going through everything that happened this episode and our theories on what's going to happen with not that many episodes left, because that was episode 15 of 18. So there's episode 16 is next week, and then the week after that they're airing 17, 18 together. So there's only 2 more weeks of Twin Peaks airing on TV. And as far as getting another season, I know that Showtime has mentioned the fact they've been happy with what the show's done so far. They consider it a success, and it's, you know, helped them drive a number of subscriptions when the show came out. Like, if you followed the ratings on it.
Yeah, the live ratings on over cable is terrible, but the streaming subscriptions and stuff like that through the app are like the best returns on the show for that as far as new signups. Is that what it was?
They said that it drove the most signups in a single weekend when the show debuted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the show, weekly is pulling in, I think, on live ratings, under 200,000 people. And then, but when you add in all the streaming views and all that, then it's over 2 million or something on average. So pulling in about what a lot of those Showtime shows do. It's just that nobody's watching it live. I just watch it via the Showtime app on my TV. I don't have a cable package to watch it live, and I'm not a Nielsen household, so it wouldn't count my numbers anyway. But based on all that, I think it's done well for them in terms of getting people subscribing and talking about it. I don't know that it's done super well enough that they'll want to fund another season. But the head of Showtime even said that there's been no discussions with that at all, but he would be open to it if David Lynch was interested.
And you would almost think too, there's another benefit to that. One, it's kind of the brand of Showtime, the marketing aspect of it. You could float along if they wanted to do it, if all parties wanted to do it, but they would float along as long as it's not losing money.
Yeah.
Let's just keep this for as just to build up some credit basically, and also maybe bring in be more attractive to other creators. If I was in the position, I'd be like, all right, Showtime, they're on my good side. HBO obviously is, but Showtime with this almost seems like the Netflix approach as far as hands off. What other networks do that and would have put out a show like this? I don't know. I don't think HBO would have ever done this. No notes. You know what I mean? Let them go 18 episodes. I don't see them making that leap because they didn't need to,
Yeah, I mean, I could see Netflix giving somebody a blank check.
Yeah.
Not a blank check, but giving them a check and saying, make your thing, and we don't need to have, test audiences and notes, just make this. But, yeah, so...
They're the only, cable network that I could see, or I couldn't see any... I wouldn't have assumed Showtime would have done that before until this was all announced. So, props to them.
And even then, I think that what happened, if everybody remembers, the show got announced, and then David Lynch stepped away. And there was a little bit of time where it was in limbo.
Because of negotiations.
Negotiations fell down. So then, since they had already announced everything, then Showtime had to get back in his good graces and kind of give him what he wanted to get the show made. I don't know what exactly those negotiations were, but...
there was some disputes over film, shooting on film, some other things, I think budget reasons. But also, too, I believe I don't know if it's the president of Showtime or one of the big network execs there. I think they were part of ABC or CBS during the original run. So I think
the show was on ABC when it originally
ABC then, okay. They were part of ABC during the original run. They were responsible for, I guess getting the original show on air. So there was a personal connection there. So that's probably also why Showtime took the leap and David Lynch took the chance with them.
Yeah, so there's all that stuff. So I don't know that there'll be another season of the show. I think the assumption is what happens in these final 3 episodes is kind of all we're going to get on screen. Now there'll be the books that come out, or at least, there'll be the Final Dossier and then the other
Bookhouse Boys.
So there'll be other stuff that comes out, but I think this is probably the last 3 episodes, probably the last time we see that on TV. I mean, who knows? I mean, I never thought we'd see more Twin Peaks ever, 10 years ago, but here we are. And just getting to the actual episode itself, so there's some pretty straightforward parts at the beginning that seem to offer a little bit of closure to some storylines. Nadine is walking around with a shovel after listening to Dr. Jacoby's conspiracy show, and she tells Ned that he's free.
I wonder too, does this have to do with her meeting with Dr. Jacoby? Is she suddenly falling for him? Yeah. Or maybe there was just a conversations had, and it was like it helped push her over the edge more than the show did or whatever.
Yeah.
But they're definitely, the last scene we saw her in, from my memory, was her and Dr. Jacoby face to face. So,
and it's still unknown exactly what happened at the original series after all this stuff when she regained her memory, like with Mike and all that stuff, back when they were a couple and she thought she was a high schooler. So there's all these different things like that. But as of right now, it looks like they've put a nice little bow on the Hank and Norma stuff, giving them a seemingly happy ending at this point.
Yeah.
Granted, many years later.
Yeah.
So they had a lot of unhappy years in between there, it looks like. But Ed just looked very elated and very happy about the situation. So, at least as of right now, that I don't know how much more we'll see of that story, if anything. It just looks like they kind of tied that off.
Yeah, I mean, if the next episodes are ramping up the final 3 hours, then there may have not have been a spot for this to kind of fit in, really.
Yeah,
especially if things start going crazy in the town or whatever.
Because like Norma and Big Ed don't really have any ties to the greater storyline that's going on, I would think, with Cooper and the lodges, aside from the fact that Big Ed was a bookhouse boy. But
I almost had the feeling that this was resolved so neatly, like, and with 3 episodes left. Yeah, I mean, we've seen it undone before in the previous series when they were kind of together, and then Nadine got her memory back and stuff. But is this setting up for, Big Ed? It was like heartbreaking to see him originally not be with her. He's gonna hook up with the Bookhouse Boys and something happened to him.
Well, they bring them back together. Yeah, I mean, there's only 3 episodes left, so there's not a lot of time for stuff to happen. But yeah, so we saw Big Ed and Norma theoretically get a happy ending, many years after they would have liked to have had one. But
better late than never.
Yeah, and then
and you need that, like, it's the show.
We need some levity.
Well, you need some drama too. If it would have already happened, and like, oh, cool, and there wouldn't have been much of a story there.
If everything happened in between the original series and the new series. But then the evil Cooper talked to Ray after the arm wrestling match and asked him about where Jefferies was, and he said the Dutchman's. And he said, but it's not a real place. And then evil Cooper said he knows where it's at, or he knows what it is. So that's, I'm assuming, the name for the convenience store that had the woodsman in it that we've seen in episode 8, when you could see kind of like the time-lapse stuff in there.
I was, the other day, I was swimming over my mother-in-law's, and I saw the neighbors had a RV, and it was called the Dutchman. And that was the model or whatever, and I was thinking, you know what, maybe he's nowhere at all because he's just driving the countryside. Or he's in the Fat Trout Trailer Park. But the convenience store could be the Dutchman, or it could be the area he goes in.
The place he goes to once he gets to the convenience store.
And somebody pointed out that it's basically like a motel parking lot he goes to, and into a motel room. Yeah. Somebody said that is the same motel from Fire Walk with Me when Leland sees Laura Palmer and all that, and then the Miss Tremont or whatever and her grandson that jump around with the mask and everything. And I'd brought that up before, like the name of that was, let's see here, Red Diamond City Motel. Remember, I was thinking like, oh, did her grandson take the name of Red from that? In the shooting script it was Blue Diamond City. Now it's Red Diamond City, but it would make sense. It's kind of interesting that they're entities of the Black Lodge or whatever, and they were hanging out in that parking lot of that motel, and now he's going to this place, and it is like a dark version of that motel. So I think that's all interesting how that kind of wraps back around. Yeah,
and then so once Evil Cooper goes to there, it goes to the convenience store. They go through this hallway, and the woodsmen are there, kind of directing him.
And we see the stairs that we saw several times.
And he goes in the hallway, and it's kind of going through the woods, and so it's kind of a creepy thing. So it indicates some type of portal or teleportation, or some symbols interdimensional. Something's going on there. And he eventually gets, like you said, to that motel parking lot, and he goes to the room and knocks on the door, and then a woman who's in the parking lot, goes and let him in.
And somebody said a man played that role.
Yeah, something seemed kind of off.
Yeah, I couldn't tell. She was in the darkness, and it's a motel, so it has numbers. But my initial thought too, it had like the number 9 at the door, and I thought, is this another portal or something linked with the portals possibly?
Yeah,
it was a motel. They all have numbers, but is this another version? Is it a motel because each door leads to some other place?
Yeah,
which very well could have been, considering he kind of goes in and then he's seemingly in a normal room.
It goes into the normal room.
Yeah,
and then it kind of has weird like layering of dimensions or something that happens, and then you see what kind of looks like a big teapot that has like smoke coming out of it. That is Phillip Jefferies, or that has his essence in it, or his spirit, or is a vessel for him to communicate, or something. I mean, it's not, because the fact that Cooper doesn't physically threaten him in any way when he wants answers indicates that there might be some special interdimensional thing going on there that might not literally be Jefferies, because that would be interesting if it was.
Well,
but it's also just getting around the fact that David Bowie passed away likely before they had a chance to shoot
and
any
we've been hearing a lot about Jefferies and everything, and it's been very exciting.
Because like Harry Goaz, the actor that plays Andy, had mentioned at some point that there was shooting days with David Bowie scheduled that had to be canceled. I guess because he got sick or was ill or something. But there's speculation, during that same period of time, he recorded an album. So if he was in good enough health to record an album, he may have been able to reschedule and shoot something later on. So will we see any of David Bowie whatsoever? Probably not, but it's not out of the realm of possibility they shot something.
Yeah.
Knowing the situation, because they did have the in memory of or in honor of or whatever on last episode.
Well, also too, they show the flashback from Fire Walk with Me again, I believe, in this scene, and it is the voice that somebody else has dubbed.
It's a voiceover that was dubbed over.
And then, so I think it was like matching this voiceover. So it sounds like Phillip Jefferies or David Bowie didn't even get to voice any lines.
Yeah, so it's unlikely. Like I said, it's very unlikely to see.
At this point, I think it's very, very unlikely.
It'd be a big surprise if we did see actual footage with Bowie in it. But Phillip Jefferies has loomed large over this entire season. This is the first time we've seen or even heard him in the present tense.
Yeah.
Because everything else has been just kind of archival footage from the original series and or just a phone conversation of which you did not hear the other side.
I remember early on somebody made a kind of a joke whenever there was a call made to South America or Argentina or wherever, and that little box, there was a call made to a box, and it had and it like disappeared or whatever. I don't know if it was the same scene where it turned into an orb. Somebody made a joke like, "Oh, that's Phillip. Maybe that's Phillip Jefferies," and it very well could have been. He could be changing shape. We don't know, or it could, like you said, it could be a communication device. Also, it was kind of rounded, and it did seem like a teapot. But we've seen some other rounded things that have been possibly communication devices. Like in the realm of the giant, which is maybe the White Lodge.
Yeah, so it's not clear exactly what the state of Phillip Jefferies is at this point.
There's the monkey thing too.
Yeah, so Cooper asked about the assassination attempt that Ray attempted. He asked him about Judy, which is referencing Fire Walk with Me when Jefferies goes into the office and says we're not going to talk about Judy. So Cooper is asking about Judy. And to the tone of the conversation and the way that Jefferies is addressing Cooper makes it sound like he views him as Cooper, not as an imposter Cooper or a double of Cooper that's separate completely from the original Cooper that he would have seen in the FBI office. So that I've seen some speculation that just further reinforces that it's the evil Cooper is part of Cooper. Mm-hmm. So either it is Cooper and is just inhabited by the evil spirit of Bob and has something else going on, or that, and then that would mean that the Cooper we've been following, Dougie, and the reason he's so brain dead is that he is the artificial construct in the real world. But there's also speculation it's just that it's the splitting of Cooper into two parts, and like the pure good and the pure evil, and they have to come back together and be whole in order for Cooper to be completely aware and have all of his facilities.
When in Firewalk with Me, when he's like, "Who do you think that is there?" And we had heard too that with I can't think of Cooper's old partner's name.
Oh, Wyndham Earl.
Wyndham Earl. He had cheated. He had a relationship with Wyndham Earl's wife.
Yeah.
And Cooper is such a force of good and seems very pure. What if he made that change prior to it? Maybe something happened and he didn't even realize. And the real Cooper, is more like a normal human being with good and bad.
More conflicted.
Yeah, more conflicted. And maybe by the time Firewalk with Me hits, there's been some splits, and that is just the good part or something.
Yeah.
And maybe Wyndham Earl knows that. Maybe it's just not revenge. Maybe it's something, maybe there could have been more going on with that possibly.
Yeah.
You could see them wrapping that around like we don't know. And then the monkey thing too with Jefferies. I guess Showtime, the new subtitles on the scene from Firewalk with Me in the convenience store.
There's somebody wearing a monkey mask.
No, it's a monkey.
It's
a mask. Yeah, it pulls it away.
Yeah.
And it says Jeffrey's voice, Judy. And then in the credits, you said it says in the credits too, right? So
in the Showtime recent airings of Firewalk with Me, the part with the monkey and the mask and all that stuff, when it says Judy, the closed captioning indicates it's Phillip Jefferies' voice. So people are wondering, like, is that an Easter egg? Or is that a slight revision of something for the new series to tie them in? Is it an error on the part of Showtime?
I read it was an error somewhere, but it's a very weirdly specific error. Like, why would that ever get changed?
And two, for Jefferies to have talked about Judy in the movie when he was in his physical or somewhat physical form, or in the appearance of David Bowie as the actor, as the character, if he is talking about Judy, it does not make a ton of sense that some other unrelated monkey character would say Judy later.
Yeah. And I think, too, at some point, Jefferies had said that he saw, like, Bob and Mike or something. He had went to the convenience store and saw them. So, was he taking another form? Was he hiding with a mask? Is that what this other form is now?
And at the hotel, he mentions about seeing Miss Judy, I think, before he disappeared. So, the heavy implication is that he was the monkey. So, maybe he's able to take different forms. Yeah. And part of the reason he's so involved in all these lodges is that he is, trying to manipulate things behind the scene to get what he wants.
Yeah.
Like, does he want Bob for himself to give himself that additional power? It's not exactly clear. And then when Cooper presses him on the Judy stuff, he gives him some numbers. That could be a phone number or a coordinate.
I thought I've heard somebody say, I didn't look this up, but that it was the coordinates where possibly Jack Rabbit's place, or
I didn't take any meaning from it. I haven't really read anything about
I haven't researched. At this point, I'm not researching too much. I'm kind of like just letting it play out a little bit more than I was before, because I don't want to find out too much now. We've only got 3 more hours left.
We've reached a point where this has happened with Westworld and Game of Thrones and stuff, where the text of those shows, this isn't the Twin Peaks, just those shows, the community has worked so hard to try to figure out what the show's twists and secrets are, that they actually figure them out.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time the reveals actually happen, nobody's surprised, because everyone figured it out, not by reading scripts I've analyzed every second of this show and it points to that. So there's a lot of stuff like that happens. And for Twin Peaks, I've tried to avoid anything like that. There's I like idle speculation, people like us, where it's nobody really has done too much research and has possibly any insider info. Because once again, with David Lynch, I think it's a little bit different. You're dealing with David Lynch and Twin Peaks than when you're dealing with HBO running Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's another thing too. Sometimes he'll do things and not explain it yet. Like the monkey situation. I guess on set when they were shooting that, he turned to his producer. Somebody was like, "Give me a monkey. I need a monkey." Out of nowhere. And I heard him tell that story before, the producer or whoever. And it was just like, oh yeah, sometimes he just asks for stuff and we need it. So, he got the money. And I'm sure to everybody at that time, they were like, what is this even doing? Is it just like a whim he has or a feeling? And that's what it seemed like. But now it's like, okay, maybe he knew that was Phillip Jefferies all along. If, just assuming that's the case. But, he may have all this figured out and he doesn't need to explain himself to them.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to say, well, look, I need this monkey because Phillip Jefferies. He just says, I need this monkey.
Yeah.
We're going to shoot this monkey, regardless. So it seems like sometimes the stuff comes out of so left field. It'd be hard to guess anyway. But yeah, I'm at the point where I'm just kind of like, I'm reading a little bit, but I'm not trying to think.
I like speculation. People are just speculating without... Because, like I said, I think
Twin Peaks
is a little bit different beast than some of those other shows, and I don't think you can really predict what's going to happen.
And it's not all about the mystery again,
Because, like Game of Thrones, it's like there's multiple stories that will have a finite end, and would likely have the finite end in the novels if they ever get completed. And with Twin Peaks, there's a lot of stuff that may not have finite endpoints and/or resolution. But too, like something that's an interesting anecdote that I read was an interview with Miguel Ferrer before he passed away. And he said when they were shooting that that Lynch always called him Albert, not Miguel. They always call him Albert. And when they were shooting the scene with David Bowie and Phillip Jefferies, he was like, Albert? He's like, that's David Bowie. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, I read that
so
too.
It's like, I'm sure that like, it would be so surreal to deal with David Lynch and like somebody like David Bowie. But... so how much of the stuff is him coming up with stuff and deciding how he wants to work these different people into projects versus, so it's
or retconning stuff and all of a sudden Showtime's like, hey, or he's like, hey, gives him a note. So Jeffrey's voice.
I do really wonder how much of the current show tying into Firewalk with Me in the original series was by design in 91 or 2 whenever the movie got made, and how much of it is retconning elements from the movie that he really didn't have an endpoint for. Or not even really retconning, just he had like these different elements he wanted maybe that he didn't have the resolution yet. He just like these different elements. And then this show is kind of taking all those elements he loved dangling and figuring out where they go. Because a lot of times on TV shows, that's what they'll do. They don't have necessarily, on a lot of shows, it mapped out from episode 1 to the final episode. They will write themselves into a corner and then have to figure out where things go and then remap story points. And a lot of times they'll put an element out there and the fan reaction or the way that it gets perceived changes how they handle the show going forward.
Yeah, or they'll know the beginning and the end and then just kind of swim around.
So how much of this stuff with Twin Peaks is stuff by design in the 90s when they were making the original run in Firewalk with Me, and how much of it is stuff that they just came up with in the past few years?
I saw somebody say like... it was like, retweet this if you think David Lynch did not watch the original series before making this season.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably absolutely true. Like, I would not be surprised if they just watched Firewalk with Me. Because, too, it's one of those things where if they sit down and watch how many of our hours of the original series, I could see it being very tempting to get back into that mode and make something that's very much the same thing.
Too, like, David Lynch did not direct all of the episodes of the show. Like, he, in the second season, directed, like, the last 2, and then was more involved in the first season, more involved in the second season, up to the point they forced them to reveal who killed Laura Palmer. But yeah, so you had the evil Cooper with Phillip Jefferies, so you didn't really get many answers. You just got that Judy's important, and at some point Jefferies told Cooper that he has met Judy before, so we don't know necessarily who that is. So there's, I think I remember reading a rumor earlier that originally there was supposed to be a character, Judy, that would be the sister of Josie Packard, but that just never came to fruition.
So it's not officially canon, but considering this woman's Asian,
Nido,
if those numbers were part of coordinates, maybe that he needed or something, was this supposed to lead him to the spot where they found her? Where she is now. And before we started, you brought up that James's friend with the glove, Freddie, it seems like he may be placed there to protect somebody. So will evil Cooper come in and,
so
if that is Judy?
Yeah, so the thing now is, so if the Judy they're referencing is actually Nido, the woman with no eyes that has like scars or cuts on her face now that they found in the prior episode, who's now theoretically safe in the Twin Peaks jail,
Who sometimes sounds like a monkey as well.
Chirps, who makes chirps that sounds kind of like monkey-like at times.
Yeah.
So the question is, if she is Judy, I don't think it's any coincidence at all that Freddy, that has that glove, the power glove essentially, or the Hulk hand glove that can crush and destroy things, and who was told by the fireman or the giant that he had a purpose and he needs to go to Twin Peaks. I think that the James getting involved with that, with the woman Renee and her husband and all that, and Freddy then punching the husband and his friend and severely injuring them, possibly killing them. I think that him being locked up in the same jail cells in the same area that Naito is in is no coincidence, and that's likely what his purpose is to use that glove and those powers to protect her in some way and or save her or stop something. So I think that his placement in the prison or in the jail cells makes a lot of sense because there's not that many episodes left. So I think he was moved in place to serve a purpose.
Yeah, and they've said Jefferies told Evil Cooper that he's met Judy before.
Yeah,
did he meet her off screen, or is it Naito because Good Cooper seemingly already met her earlier in this season? Or is it Sarah Palmer, whatever's in Sarah Palmer, the mother, if that is like mother or whatever. Or is it Sarah Palmer and he knows that, Good Cooper has met her before. Or like people have theorized that, she was gone for a long time and she told Major Briggs, the last time she saw him, she told him that I'm in the Black Lodge with Cooper.
Yeah.
She told him that. And this was, so it's like, I don't know. But I can't wait to find out.
Then once Evil Cooper leaves, once he gets a phone call and he answers it, he appears outside of the convenience store, and Richard Horton is waiting with the gun and confirms 100% that Audrey is his mother, that Audrey Horton's his mother, because he recognizes Evil Cooper as the FBI agent from the pictures that his mom had. And Cooper asks who his mother is. He says Audrey Horton. And then Evil Cooper disarms him, takes the gun away, and tells him to get in the truck and come with him, and he'll explain it on the way. So that means... So that gives a lot of credence to the theory that Evil Cooper is the dad of Richard Horn. And that Audrey Horn, when she was in a coma, was assaulted and impregnated by Evil Cooper.
Yeah, I mean, they've kind of led us down that path a little bit.
Because they laid a little... Like with Dr. Hayward on the phone, seemed to indicate that direction. He's like, oh, maybe, because he saw Cooper at the hospital, maybe Cooper was seeing Audrey. And then you have the part where when Cooper went to do the arm wrestling match in Montana, Richard Horton happened to be there and saw him on TV and recognized him. And Evil Cooper didn't just kill him, which it seems like he would if it was somebody that had no importance to him.
Yeah, to say get in the car, like he's
to bring him along, I think he only do that if he knew that he served some purpose or had some importance. So,
or if he loved him and wanted to reconnect.
He's like, yeah,
boy, I've got something to tell you.
Like when they get in conversation he doesn't like, he's like, that's very uncomfortable conversation, starting positions. And then Richard's like, I know what that means. I'm not going to talk sass. So we get further hints that there's something going on between Evil Cooper and Richard Horn. Once again, the theory being that Evil Cooper's the dad. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, and two, Richard Horn ties into the drug trade in Twin Peaks and some of the crime element in Twin Peaks.
And Red that we haven't seen in a very long time. And the last time we saw him was for a brief moment. So
that gives Evil Cooper a tie-in to the rest of the goings-on in Twin Peaks. And then, like, Carl at the Fat Trout Trailer Park. So we'll have to see where that goes. But I think that's, to me, it would be, at this point, Richard Horn not being killed by Evil Cooper is a huge indication there's some importance there. And we will have to, I guess we'll find out what that is in future episodes and see where it is Cooper's going. If those are coordinates or a number that he's calling, we'll see where that's going soon. And if his next destination is Vegas and or Twin Peaks or somewhere else. But, so we'll see that.
It's got to be not Vegas, only because he sent Chantel. You would assume,
so he
would have done it himself if he didn't need to, if he wasn't going there.
So we see in Las Vegas, we see Chantel assassinate Duncan Todd and his assistant Roger. So we now know who at least part of the equation was in terms of Evil Cooper sending them to kill the warden and then somebody else.
And you kind of assume that that was one of the targets, right?
Yes, because Duncan Todd had failed at that point.
Yeah.
So the assumption was that Duncan Todd was a target, and that the other target, because Chantel and Hutch indicate there's one left, so I'd assume it's Dougie.
That was a great scene. That felt very Tarantino-esque.
Yeah, and even had Jennifer Jason Leigh, who was in Hateful Eight.
You know, it just felt like kind of a brutal thing where they didn't need to show, you know, all of it, and it was, I don't know, it was just handled so well because, one, it was a surprise assassination.
Yeah.
The audience was surprised. It was out of nowhere. And then she's walking out, and it was like comical but dark at the same time because you hear the gurgling, and she realizes he's still alive. So she has to turn around, shoot him again. And
she's very concerned about this fast food they're going to be getting. Yeah. So she's like a fast food connoisseur. So
she's my kind of girl.
Yeah. So it's not enough they're going to Wendy's, but
it was the nondescript labels. They couldn't take it that far. And then they talk about, you know, we got a whole country of killers and assassins. And then, you know, she got dessert and they love each other.
Yeah.
And then they have one more target. I've really enjoyed their storyline because it's brief but very entertaining every time they pop
it's
up.
Memorable.
And they're great actors.
And you know, they're not, most of the scenes with them are moving things along. So then we also get more Cooper action, more Dougie good Cooper action we've had in a while. So he's sitting at the table, and Janie E gave him some cake, and he seems quite impressed or happy about the cake. And he touches the TV remote and turns the TV on.
She says to him something along the lines of like, everything's working out beautifully.
Yeah.
And that seems like another
indicator that stuff's about to go
signal that things are going to go bad, or maybe this is the end of her time in the story because she's reached, she seems fairly happy.
And you have the aspect of the fact that she has a husband who's essentially brain dead and only parrots back what she says and has no personality of his own.
And somehow keeps bringing money.
Who brought them money and financial success and stability and is good in the sack. And apparently it's all she needs. And she is she's very content with her life.
And maybe this, maybe this is the end of his time there with her, and we see her have a somewhat happy ending as far as financially taken care of. Sonny Jim has a new
he has the
playset,
the snazziest playground in Vegas.
Yep. Somebody drew some comparisons with that swing set to something else as far as the shape. I can't remember, but it does have a spotlight on it, and there's been like spotlights in the series before and stuff. But yeah, so he messes with the salt shaker, and somebody pointed out that kind of looks like the bell-shaped thing in the White Lodge. So, he could have been like fooling with that, like, there was something there maybe triggering some memory or something.
Yeah.
And then, he's messing with the remote and pauses Sunset Boulevard, the movie.
He turns on the TV, and the movie is Sunset Boulevard, and the character mentions, get me Gordon Cole. And then you see a look of like lucidity and awareness come over Cooper or Dougie that we really haven't seen that much from him yet.
Yeah, when you heard the music.
Yeah.
That's a really weird thing to do because, we've known that David Lynch pulled the name Gordon Cole from that film.
Yeah.
And it's a weird thing to double back. So it's like, okay, so the Gordon Cole in this universe.
Yeah.
There's also a movie, Gordon Cole. And not that that's like out of the realm, but again, is this David Lynch kind of putting out there that he's the dreamer? We knew that what he was looking back on in reality from the other dream was actually David Lynch Art Gallery. Yeah. So like, is this commenting on that, saying like, hey, I pulled this from, people know this, but I pulled this from this movie because it's something that inspired me. Or is it just he's also using that as another device?
Is it more of a winking nod, just to like, and this? I mean, it does make sense that I think it could be like a winking nod to like, this is where it came from. But anything where when the name Gordon Cole is spoken, or anything that has a ties to that part of Cooper's life, that's going to make him, start to snap out of it. And he starts to hear a hum out of the electrical socket. And he gets on the ground and crawls towards it with the fork. So you immediately know where it's going. But the scene of him crawling was very reminiscent of Bob crawling in the original series. Like when Bob's crawling on the ground. Yeah. So to me, I was like, it reminded me of that a lot.
Well, there's another connection too, not to jump ahead too much, but the end of the episode, is it Charlene Yee?
I believe so. And she's crawling on the ground.
So she crawls on the ground. Then all of a sudden she begins to scream.
Yeah.
We assume that's probably what Dougie Cooper would do if if he was to put that in there, he may have also started screaming like that too. Was there a connection there? Because she just started crawling out of nowhere, and then she started screaming, and there was white flashes, which often indicates electricity and stuff.
Yeah. So Dougie Cooper tries to stick the fork in the electrical socket, but he's sticking it in prongs first, and it's not going in. So then he turns it around and sticks the end of the fork into the socket and gets electrocuted, and you see lights flashing, and then you hear like Janie E scream, and
at that moment I was like, no, please, I hope he's not dying. You know, I hope he's not dead. So, I was like, no.
But there's also the stuff in the episode with Margaret, the log lady, who is talking to Hawk about how she's dying, and about how dying is just changing. So is that is Cooper dying in that body and going back to the lodge as a full lucid Cooper that will then come out once evil Cooper goes in?
Is he changing places and going to turn up in the floor of the Roadhouse band's playing? Or is it him literally jump starting his brain and kind of putting a jolt in himself to wake himself up from a dream?
Bringing the rest of him through and making him come back to full Cooperness, and then he'll immediately be, have his full faculties back, and then get into the end game of the show.
Essentially, pinching himself when he's dreaming.
Yeah.
Is it one of those deals too? Great little cliffhanger,
And if it's just he's dead and it's just evil Cooper and
and that very well could be the situation.
But like I said, so when so if the final happens to that, I mean, I think it's very unlikely that that's the last we'll see
me too.
Of good Cooper. So it's either it kind of jumpstarts his memory and he's back to being himself, or at least some semblance of himself, and not just kind of a
but we say this every week. He might be coming back next week.
But this was almost the most agency he's shown so far, aside from stopping Ike the Spike.
Yes. And it's approaching end game.
There's not many episodes left. So then when the log lady, when Margaret Lanterman calls Hawk, so what she says is, Hawk, I'm dying. You know about death, that it's just a change, not an end. So it could be referencing the Cooper stuff, or it could just be referencing her.
Or her husband.
Yeah. Hawk, it's time. There's some fear in letting go. Remember what I told you. I can't say more over the phone, but you know what I mean. From our talks when we were able to speak face to face. Watch for that one. The one I told you about. The one under the moon on Blue Pine Mountain. Hawk, my log is turning gold. The wind is moaning. I'm dying. Good night, Hawk. So she says it to Hawk.
Very incredible scene. The context of her passing away and everything.
Catherine Coulson.
I've never seen anything like that in a movie or TV show.
The actress who portrayed her was sick when they were shooting and passed away shortly after. And they shot this, I think, before principal photography on the rest of the show began, because they shot her stuff in 2015. So it was one of those things where, I mean, she was sick when they were shooting it, so I'm sure there was a lot of emotion going on just with her, knowing that the end was coming close, and then shooting these scenes about her character passing away, which one of those things I don't think I remember seeing, where they kind of eulogize a character with the actor.
And she created or helped create that character. I think she created that character, even on her headstone, it has a picture of her holding, hands holding a log, and I think it might even say the log lady or whatever. So, it's not like just, we're just using this as a, this is very much part of, it was her creation and who she was, as far as her legacy and stuff. I think it was a great scene.
And if you read the secret history of Twin Peaks, her character plays a lot more into the mythology of Twin Peaks as a whole than you might gather from just seeing, just thinking of the show. Like, she was more integral to the story, I think, especially in The Return, than she was maybe, even though she had things to do in the original series. And even though she helped them figure some things out. Like, I think in The Return, I think with the Secret History of Twin Peaks coming out before that, it builds her up as a more important mythological character in Twin Peaks. And, she was very wise and one of the stronger female characters who kind of, even though she passed away, was on her own terms. There wasn't any violence against her. She wasn't doing violence against others. She was just, trying to be helpful and trying to help. And you saw her pass away in a very touching scene, and something, like I said, I don't know that I've seen something before where an actor eulogizes like a character and shows them passing away, and then actually passes away in real life. A very surreal thing, and I'm sure that was something that probably tough to shoot, but a very touching scene. And then Hawk brings in Truman and Andy and Lucy.
Also, too, you said under the blue moon. Under the blue moon you would assume either under the moon or whatever. Maybe that's a spot on the map. The moon.
Under the moon on Blue Pine Mountain.
Okay, so maybe that's a spot on the map he has, the living map.
Yeah.
Or or it means at night, which we saw him walking through the dark at night earlier in the series after the phone call with her. Yeah. So but yes.
Yeah.
So he brings everybody in the conference room, and Truman is looking at pictures of fish on his laptop. Did you notice that?
No.
It's just his he's sitting there in the darkness, and he like thumbs through one, and he's just looking. It's just like black screen and kind of a small thumbnail or image in the middle, and it's just fish.
Oh.
That's what he's looking at on his laptop.
Were they in the percolator? So,
well, somebody said David Bowie. There was a David Bowie in the percolator.
Oh, but that's an interesting.
Or
idea.
a Phillip Jefferies.
But everybody is in the room, and Hawk makes him aware of Margaret passing away, and Truman takes his hat off, and everybody is sad. Mm-hmm. So you send that character off, and I wasn't sure we are gonna see her again. So seeing her again,
it's been awesome that she was able to be a part of this.
So then other things happen in the episode. In the woods, we see Gersten Hayward, which is Donna's younger sister, and Stephen, who is the husband of Becky, which is the daughter of Shelley and Bobby. We see them in the woods, and he seems to be kind of tripping out, or
she says something along the lines of "you're high."
Yeah,
but yeah, he's like flipping out, a lot of mumbling, and I meant to rewatch that with the subtitles on, and I didn't.
But he's basically he did something or something. He's very.
And I think she says something like, "You didn't do it; she did it to herself." So I've seen speculation that, are they talking about Becky overdosing, or did she kill herself with that gun, or did he shoot her, or did he cause her to shoot her? Some people said, as you mentioned, like maybe this takes place out of order. Could something happen in the previous episode when she goes after him, when she's mad or something? I don't know, but
it could be a reference to he could have been. So after Becky came after them and shot rounds into the door of the apartment door, and Gersten. I'm saying her name right. I'm already forgetting.
Yeah, Gersten. Mm-hmm.
Gersten. So when Becky went and shot that gun off, maybe that's what he's referring to, or that's what they're referring to is she did it.
Yeah.
Is that he drove her to do something like that, and then that as a result of that he did more drugs and got suicidal or something as a result of it. So it's not exactly clear where in the timeline it is, but there's a bypasser that goes through the woods. And Gersten hides around the other side of the tree so to not be seen. And then she hears a gunshot, and we don't see what the result is. But the person who's walking through the woods manages to get out and goes and tells Carl
that
Mark
something
Frost.
Happens.
So so Mark Frost. So and then he goes and tells Carl that something happened, and Carl looks back to the trailer that was Becky and Steve's, and that's kind of where that ends. So we assume that Steve is dead at this point and or injured.
Yeah. And he was talking about Becky, whatever that may be. Who knows? Carl may walk in there and find Becky dead or overdosed or something. Yeah. But if he's looking at the trailer, hopefully he's going to go check it out. Yeah. Just because, not that he maybe had heard what Stephen was saying, not that Mark Frost's character heard that, but maybe he'll call an ambulance for the woods and then run and check that out. But hopefully Becky's okay.
And then we get another scene that's slightly frustrating with Audrey and Charlie when they're getting ready to go to the roadhouse. And Charlie has his coat on, but he's very tired still. Mm-hmm. And Audrey kind of diddles around and argues with him, and then he takes his jacket back off and he's not going to go. So it almost seems like she wanted to go, but doesn't want to go, doesn't want to leave. doesn't want to actually go through the act of going.
Yeah. Somebody pointed out the one thing that is odd, aside from the dialogue in these scenes, is that David Lynch loves exteriors.
Yeah.
We'll show the exterior of a place, and then the scenes.
And we still don't know where this is.
Never seen an exterior of this. So that's something a little odd about this, as far as making this scene seem like she is trapped there. Whether it is in a coma or, maybe it's some weird purgatory that Evil Coop put her in. Like, oh, I need her to stay. You know what I mean?
Because it is interesting that, if you remember, when Frank Truman is inquiring about Richard Horn, he contacts Ben Horn, not Audrey Horn.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly what that means.
And it's really weird that also her world, or whatever, wherever she's at, she mentions the Roadhouse, so it seems like she wouldn't be too far away for Frank Truman to call her or whatever. But also, there's obviously something looking for Billy, who is seemingly part of this world as well. But yeah, this scene ends with her choking Charlie. And maybe that's just ending the scene, her frustrations, or maybe he is somebody keeping her there. If maybe this is a fabricated place, and he is like a guardian of it or whatever. Maybe if she kills him, that'll make her snap out of it,
Yeah.
Or it's simple as this is a real place. She's at some place down the road from the Roadhouse,
Yeah.
But there's definitely something very odd about these scenes, and intentionally odd. And I would be surprised if it was simply straightforward.
And the opposite of fan service.
Yes.
And so we still don't know exactly what's going on with that scenario. Like I said, like the point that you made about the exteriors is a good one, though, because I think we've seen the exteriors almost everywhere. And then wherever Audrey is, one thing where we have not seen exterior. So we'll have to wait and see, how this ties into the rest of the storyline, if at all, because her being the mother of Richard Horn, who is with Evil Cooper, you would think that could lead to some paths crossing, but with 3 hours left, there's not a lot of time, and the way the story's moved so far, I don't know that things will move quickly enough for that to happen.
Yeah, I wonder if Evil Cooper's gonna go find Audrey now and like, here's your damn kid, take care of you.
Yeah, I
mean that, or so do we think? I've heard people debunk it. The man that's in the picture with Cooper.
Yeah,
some people are like, oh, it kind of looks like Charlie, whatever. Maybe Cooper's like, hey, he's working for Cooper, and he's like, hang on to Audrey or something. You know what I mean?
I mean, it would make sense that if Evil Cooper had impregnated Audrey and she had his child, that he would then do something, try to exert some level of control over her after the fact. So, I have seen discussion, even in the comments for some more videos, people discuss, is the guy in those pictures of Evil Cooper Charlie or not? And people said, like his height, but it could be like the angling and what he's wearing and facial hair and stuff. So without clear proof, it's unknown. But I would not be surprised if, Evil Cooper was trying to keep tabs on things that could come back to him. So, I mean, it's one of those storylines that with 3 episodes left and the amount of screen time we've gotten of Audrey so far has been pretty insignificant.
Yeah.
And has been scenes that really didn't go anywhere.
But considering there's been like at least 3 of these now, you would assume there was a significant buildup for a reason. Some large monumental thing.
Is this late in the game to have stuff with her still showing up?
Yeah. You
would think there needs to be something that happens with it. Because other characters, so, we haven't heard anybody mention Wyndham Earle at all in this series. I mean, he had a pretty definitive end in the original series run. We haven't heard anybody mention Annie either, for the most part. Like, I think she was mentioned some with Doc Hayward stuff, but there was no definitive answer given as to what exactly happens. You just have to go based on what was in Twin Peaks, the missing pieces and like those extra clips in the original run of the show and stuff. But so you get no resolution with Audrey again, and I'm sure a lot of people who are Audrey fans are somewhat frustrated with what they've seen of her so far. But then, like I said, so after this, there's like the Roadhouse stuff with the character just crawls around on the floor and screams.
Was that next, or was it the?
I think it was
Did
stuff.
we already talk about
We already
James?
talked about
Okay.
James and Freddie in the prison.
Yeah.
So, like, I think Freddie's, like I said, been maneuvered into a spot where he can have some influence on the events if somebody comes after Nido.
That scene was very funny too.
Yeah.
In the bar, because James, he did seem a little like, they said something about him not being right since the motorcycle accident, and the way he approached her, and he's like, "Oh, I was just telling her how much I liked her," or something, to that effect. So, and that was the woman that was crying at him when he was performing before too.
Yes.
So that scene was very funny, but almost a little upsetting.
When
that like
she was
James,
and she was with Shelley in one of the first episodes, right? At the Roadhouse.
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, but that scene was very funny, but also a little upsetting because, like, the last episode, you think, oh, James is, like, okay.
Yeah.
And now you're like, oh, maybe he has, like, some weird, like, socially, it doesn't seem like he has all his faculties as far as what is socially acceptable, maybe, in certain situations.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of a bummer, but it was great to see his friend, like, defend him.
Well, after he got kicked around some first, then Freddie gets in because he has that glove and he punches two people.
And he punches them so hard that music stops, like it skips. And it's great that it's all happening to Sharp Dressed Man too. Like I love that scene, like all of that.
Because when the MC at the Roadhouse said they're going to play a ZZ Top song, I was like, oh crap, are they in this? But then it was just they were playing the song. So that was a little bit of a twist on the general Roadhouse setup.
And is Cooper the Sharp Dressed Man?
Well, theoretically, but so like I said, I think that Freddie's been. I don't think you have him tell that story and take the amount of time that they did. If he has nothing to do with the remaining, end game of the show. Yeah. So I think he was put into place to be able to protect Nido when the time comes or to help.
Yeah.
So I think that was what makes the most sense out of that.
So does that wrap everything up besides the final scene with the bar crawling?
Yeah, I mean, and like I said before, like, does that mirror Cooper? Or is that, because we have seen characters crawl on the floor throughout the series, and from like in the original series, like when Bob was going to kill Sarah Palmer, was like crawling on the floor and like passed out. Mm-hmm. So does this have any possible connection to that at all?
And the flashing lights we've seen with Bob when he's walking before too, and the screaming that he's done.
So there's a lot, like with the scene, like all these out of context Roadhouse scenes, it's kind of hard to figure out exactly what the point is. And once again, chronologically, where do they fall in order? Because I think this was probably more intended to be specifically where it was at in a plot point.
Yeah.
Where something happened. Some of the other scenes, I think you could have changed which Roadhouse scene went in which episode, and it wouldn't have changed much.
It's interesting too, because like, if this is supposed to link up with the Cooper scene from earlier when he's crawling across the floor, like on a lot of shows there would be cross-cutting where he would be crawling and then all of a sudden she would be crawling, and that would be very fascinating. I think you would think like, oh, this is amazing storytelling and editing, and I would have actually thought that was very exciting and almost more mysterious, but it's like.
Telling you how it connects.
Not telling you how it connects is also like it's even a step further. It's like more bolder than just going ahead and like insinuating that.
Yeah.
It may not connect at all, but it's interesting that Lynch does not. He isn't tempted by doing that.
He doesn't care about narrative conventions.
Yeah.
Or at least at this point.
Or leading you along too much. Like he gives you just enough, and really it is about you kind of thinking about the possibilities, and that's an exciting part. Not necessarily just translating what should be happening and holding your hand throughout it.
Yeah. So I think we're all looking for the good Dale Cooper with his full faculties back, Freddie with the Hulk hand glove, road trip buddy comedy, where they're just smashing everything. Or, maybe evil Cooper gets to the prison and has to challenge Freddie to an arm wrestling match.
I was thinking, it would be great to have a Full House show, but all with Coopers. You got Dougie Jones as Joey, Good Cooper as Bob Saget, and then Evil Cooper as John Stamos. And then you've got Richard Horn and Sonny Jim as the kids, and then maybe Audrey could be Becky in that equation. I was trying to cast that and how great that would be, because did you see that Multiplicity poster that somebody made?
With
the Coopers?
Yes, like Kyle MacLachlan could definitely be the lead of a Multiplicity style movie, because I've seen some articles praising the fact that I think at the end of when this is all said and done, if Twin Peaks doesn't get some Emmy nominations, for directing for David Lynch and acting for Kyle MacLachlan and some others, depending on how the rest of these episodes play out, like it's gonna be a crime if they don't get nominated for something.
Yeah, I mean,
because Kyle MacLachlan has done so much with like a lot of the Dougie stuff and a lot of the Evil Cooper stuff. There's so little dialogue, but he's conveyed so much.
Yes,
and done such a stellar job that even though some of the Dougie stuff might grate people and might get on their nerves, they have to admit like what he's doing though in those scenes is very good.
Yeah,
and conveying a lot with almost nothing.
But it's like who's everybody voting on this. What is going to be their taste, and that's what it is. That's what it comes down to.
Because like if at the end of the day, if one of the Game of Thrones episode directors gets the nomination over Lynch for something or wins over Lynch, it's like what he's done here is far different than visual effects spectacles. Because I've seen some people in this series complain about not the special effects, like the actual practical effects in on the set in camera. Those have all been top notch. They've complained about the visual effects for some of the stuff. Which I think that's probably by design to look the way it does, and possibly a budget level thing. But I think it's more by design because some of the stuff in episode 8 looks so good with or was that a trade off to get all the stuff for episode 8 with like the nuclear explosion? Was that a trade off to get some lower rent special effects?
It has like a
visual effects,
handmade feel, but also too a lot of his art that he produces as far as paintings and stuff. Yeah, they aren't lifelike, accurate, recreations of anything. Yeah, they are a very handmade feel look. Is it that? Is it kind of like, hey, I just want to. This is how I want to handle it.
So, I mean, think like the effect of Evil Cooper and the Woodsman walking up the stairs to the convenience store and disappearing is creepier than some very slick special effect with. A
CGI monster,
or a lot of junk like you would see on other cable shows. Like I think that effect is lo-fi and works better.
Lynch is great at making like the mundane terrifying too. Yeah. Or very significant, like a light socket, or it's just a fan.
Like, this episode had more stuff that was in the mode of being terrifying or horrifying without really showing you anything. Because there was, more stuff in this episode. So there's only a few left. So the big question is, did we see the Cooper storyline get kicked into gear with 3 episodes left? I think so, but we'll have to wait and see.
Have we seen Judy yet? Yes. What's going to happen with Sarah Palmer? I'm interested with that. Yeah. Phillip Jefferies. The Phillip Jefferies scene, it was a letdown for me a little bit. I was very excited to get some closure, but I was... And not even like I was expecting him to be back. I wasn't expecting like that. Yeah. I don't know. I almost would have rather it kept a little bit more mystery.
Well, too, do we get the full extent of what's going on with him, or is there more going on that we don't know about that we'll find about in these final 3 episodes? Yeah. They'll tie more back into Gordon Cole and Albert and all that. So we don't know. That's what the wait and see.
But the scenes with Evil Cooper walking through the motel parking lot was incredible. It was like, oh, Lynch is doing another black. This is his next Black Lodge because everything's run reverse the Black Lodge, and
then at the end of the episode, like you see that parking lot, and then you see the woman or the man in woman's clothing that let him into the room standing around. So that was very unsettling too.
And 2, it says the episode's in memory of Margaret.
Or Catherine Coulson.
No, it said Margaret.
Oh, Margaret.
Yeah, but it said in memory of Margaret. Okay. Which was, a nice touch too that it wasn't Catherine Coulson. I thought that was great. So great episode. Can't wait for next week.
So there's only a few left, so we have to wait and see how that goes.
Happy we've gotten this.
Yeah, so that'll wrap up our discussion of this episode. So we'll be back for the final 3 episodes. And then after that, we'll try to find something else to cover like this.
Yeah, we'll do some more Twin Peaks content and let us know more of your thoughts on any ideas for that.
Yep, so that'll wrap up this video. Thanks for watching.